I trusted her with my dreams, and she stole them. It's almost impossible to explain the feeling of betrayal when you watch someone you called your best friend, someone you worked with day and night, turn your hard work into their personal empire without even a hint of guilt. But that's exactly what happened to me. The business we created together, the vision we shared, it was all taken from me. And the worst part, she wasn't even trying to hide it. I found out the hard way, of course, after months of believing we were in this together. I thought we were partners. Turns out I was just the free labor she needed to make herself rich. And believe me, it was far from a clean break. It was a full-on betrayal that I would never let slide. Before we start, type 1 if you've ever dreamed of getting revenge but never got the chance. No judgment here. And hit that subscribe button. We don't let betrayal slide around here, not even from people who don't subscribe. Let's continue. My name's Isabella, and I've always been the kind of person who's all in when it comes to friendships and dreams. I'm 32 years old, with a knack for creative ideas that I think could change the world, or at least make a dent in it. Growing up in Boston, I always felt like I was one idea away from something big. My best friend, Sam, was the first person I met when I moved to the city for college. She was charming, smart, and had that energy that drew people in. The kind of person who could make you believe that no dream was too big if you just put in the work. We clicked immediately. I was always the quiet one, the planner, while Sam was the outgoing one, the doer. Together, we made a great team. She had connections, I had vision. We spent hours after work at our favorite cafe, brainstorming, talking about everything from business ideas to personal dreams. It didn't take long before we started thinking about turning our passion for fashion into something more. Sam had this infectious belief that we could build a brand that was fun, empowering, and above all, totally us. I loved the idea and I was ready to dive in. I was the one who found the manufacturers, who researched the market, who spent hours sketching designs for the clothing line. Sam was the face of it all. She could sell anything, and I admired how natural it was for her. It felt like we were in this together, until the moment I realized I was doing all the work while she was playing the role of the visionary. The woman who was too busy to bother with the details. And that's when I began to feel the first stirrings of doubt. It wasn't anything huge at first, just small things that didn't add up. But I had no idea that what we were building would end up breaking me. It all started so innocently. We were sitting in the back corner of our usual cafe in South Boston one chilly Friday evening, sipping on overpriced lattes as usual. Sam and I had been toying with the idea of a lifestyle brand for months. We wanted to create something that stood for confidence, empowerment, and a little bit of sass. It was supposed to be our thing, something that reflected both our personalities. I was excited. I had been sketching designs for weeks, pulling ideas from every corner of my mind. I could see it all coming together. Then one night, Sam dropped a bombshell. She'd found an investor, a serious one. Someone who could make our dreams a reality. It was all happening so fast, and for a moment I was caught up in the excitement. Maybe I wasn't as ready as I thought, but Sam assured me that everything would be fine. We were a team, right? I spent the next few days in overdrive, working on designs, finalizing the concept, and drafting the perfect business plan. Sam kept busy too, securing more meetings, handling the big picture stuff. But I noticed something strange. When we talked about launching, she started using we less and less and I more. Still, I didn't think too much of it. I trusted her completely. Then, about a week later, I stumbled across something that made my heart drop. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it, a brand new account with our logo on it, announcing the launch of our brand. My designs, my idea. But it wasn't our brand, it was just hers. Sam had gone ahead and launched the business under her name, leaving me completely out of the equation. It felt like I had been slapped across the face. All the work I had poured into this idea, the countless nights spent brainstorming, and suddenly it wasn't ours anymore. It was hers. And I wasn't even on the team. I should have known something was off when Sam stopped picking up my calls. I wasn't one to overreact, but I'd tried reaching her for a week. The messages I sent were met with polite excuses, like "let's chat soon" or "been crazy busy with investors." At first, I told myself it was just the whirlwind of business taking over. After all, she was the face of it now. She had the meetings, the connections, the glamour. Then one evening, I ran into Derek, an old friend of ours who worked in marketing. He was buzzing about Sam's new venture, practically glowing with excitement. "Man, she's killing it," Derek said, sipping his beer at the bar. "Did you see the launch event? It's blowing up." I nodded, trying to keep my cool. Yeah, I saw it, looks great. Derek leaned in, his voice dropping. You know, Sam really pulled this off. She's got the whole influencer game on lock now. I mean, she even found an investor who's backing her up big time. My heart skipped a beat. Investor, she didn't mention anything about that to me. Derek shrugged, oblivious. Oh yeah, she's been working on this for months, getting all the pieces together. You know, she's super focused on getting this brand off the ground. My stomach churned. I had been the one behind all the real work. She had used my ideas to get investors, used my trust to lock everything down. I wasn't just left out of the picture, I was erased. But what stung more was that it wasn't even a subtle move. It was as if she thought I wouldn't care enough to notice. I had this image of Sam and me standing side by side at the top of our brand. We would be the power duo, the brains and the beauty. She'd be the charismatic front, charming everyone with her social skills and charm, while I'd be the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. Together, we'd build something great. But now I felt like the strings were being pulled out from under me, one by one. After Derek's little slip-up at the bar, things only got worse. Sam's brand was growing exponentially, and I was stuck on the outside, watching it all unfold from my phone screen. Every time I checked Instagram, it seemed like the account was getting more followers, more likes, and more buzz. I'd see pictures of Sam attending fancy events in designer outfits, smiling with influencers and investors. Meanwhile, I was at home, buried under spreadsheets and coffee cups, trying to make sense of it all. My friend had turned into a corporate powerhouse while I was left in the dust, still waiting for the credit I'd never get. One afternoon, I decided to confront her. I had to. This was getting ridiculous. I put on my best I'm not mad, just disappointed face and walked into the coffee shop we used to frequent. Sam was sitting at a table near the window, typing away on her phone, completely absorbed in whatever was on the screen. I took a deep breath and approached her. Hey, Sam. Can we talk? She looked up, her face lighting up with that same fake smile I had grown so used to over the past few months. Oh hey, Isabella, what's up? You look different. Everything okay? She had that look, the one that said she knew exactly what was coming but was pretending to be oblivious. I pulled out the chair and sat across from her. Yeah, I'm good. Just, wondering when you were going to tell me about everything. Her eyes flickered, but she quickly recovered. Everything, what do you mean? I tried to keep my cool, but inside I was boiling. Don't play dumb, Sam. I know about the launch, I know about the investors, I know about my designs on your website. And let me guess, you're too busy with meetings to even acknowledge my part in all of this. She raised an eyebrow, clearly unbothered. Oh, come on, Isabella, you know how this business stuff goes. You've got to strike while the iron's hot. I was just doing what needed to be done to get it off the ground. You weren't available, so I, had to make moves. I tried to keep my composure, but the words stung like a slap to the face. I wasn't available. I've been working around the clock on this, Sam. You asked me to help. You begged me to bring my ideas to life. And now you're telling me you just took everything and ran with it. She sighed, looking down at her phone as if she was checking emails in the middle of our conversation. Look, Isabella, you're being too emotional about this. This is business. It's not personal. And if we're being honest, you were never going to pull the trigger on this anyway. You were too hesitant, too caught up in the details. The nerve. I was too caught up in the details. This was my idea. The entire business was based on the sketches I had made, the research I had done, the late-night brainstorming sessions we shared. I had sacrificed weekends and late hours for this, and Sam had the audacity to sit across from me and act like it was just some project she picked up because I wasn't fast enough. Too hesitant. Sam, you took my work and turned it into your own. You didn't pull the trigger, you hijacked everything. She put her phone down, finally meeting my eyes with that practiced smile again. Isabella, don't take it personally. You're a great designer and all, but this isn't just about the designs. It's about making things happen. I made it happen, okay. I was seething, but I knew I had to keep my cool. If I lost my temper now, I would just be giving her the upper hand. But how could she be so calm, so detached, as if I wasn't even a part of the story? Making it happen by stealing my work. By erasing me from the story? I shot back, the anger barely contained in my voice. She shrugged nonchalantly. Look, I know it's hard to understand, but this is just how business works. Not everything is going to be fair, Isabella. If you want to succeed, you've got to be willing to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, you mean screw over your best friend and throw her under the bus. She looked around the cafe, making sure no one was listening, before leaning in closer, lowering her voice. Okay, fine, maybe it was a little harsh, But Isabella, we're not in high school anymore. It's time to grow up. This is about money, not friendship. I could barely believe what I was hearing. Sam wasn't justifying her actions, she was rationalizing them. And the more she spoke, the clearer it became that she had already moved on from our friendship, from everything we had built together. She had a new identity now, one that didn't involve me. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. Well, I guess I have some growing up to do too, Sam, because I'm not going to sit here and let you take what's mine. You may have the brand, but I have the truth, and that's what's going to bring you down. I left before she could say another word, but as I walked out the door, I knew something had changed inside me. I wasn't the one who had been hesitant. I had been the one who had trusted her. Now it was time to take back what was rightfully mine. For a few days after that confrontation, I was a mess. It wasn't just the anger or the betrayal that kept me up at night, it was the helplessness. I felt completely powerless. Sam had already built a brand with my ideas, and she was too busy counting her new followers to care about my hurt. She was out there at press conferences, charming the media, while I was stuck in the quiet of my apartment, trying to piece together what had happened. But something inside me was beginning to shift. I wasn't going to just let this slide. I couldn't. The more I thought about it, the more it boiled inside me. This wasn't just about business. This was about principle. She had stolen my hard work and played me for a fool. I wasn't about to let her get away with it, no matter how successful she was. I had to fight back, but how? I didn't have her connections. I didn't have her marketing skills. All I had were the facts. But I knew one thing, I couldn't be the only one who saw through her act. So I did what any self-respecting person who had been wronged would do. I started digging. I spent hours researching the legal side of things, getting my hands on contracts, digging through email threads, and tracking down old business proposals we had shared. I scoured old text messages, all the little breadcrumbs Sam had left behind when she had so carelessly brushed me aside. As I pulled the pieces together, the truth became clearer. Sam had not only stolen my idea. She had manipulated the entire situation from the beginning. One evening, I sat with a stack of papers spread out in front of me, a clear trail of deception at my fingertips. It was like a puzzle I was putting together, each new piece adding fuel to the fire. As I looked over everything, the weight of it all hit me. I had the evidence. I had the emails where Sam first pitched the idea as our baby, but then there were others where she subtly took full credit. She had been setting this up for months, biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to cut me out and make the business her own. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. At that moment, it was like a switch flipped in my brain. I realized that this wasn't just about personal betrayal anymore. This was bigger. This was about holding her accountable, showing everyone what she'd done. I wasn't going to let her ride on my coattails while I stayed silent. It was time to expose her, but how? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I didn't need to play by her rules anymore. I had a different weapon at my disposal, the truth. I called in a favor from an old friend, Jordan. He had worked in PR for a few years and knew the ins and outs of the media game. If I was going to make a move, I needed someone who could help me craft the story. I met Jordan at a small bar on the outskirts of the city. He was the same as always, easygoing, laid back, with a sarcastic edge that made him fun to talk to, especially when things were tense. I filled him in on everything. The business, the betrayal, the confrontation with Sam. Jordan was skeptical at first. "Wait a minute," he said, leaning back in his chair. "So you're telling me you were basically her unpaid intern and now she's riding high on your work? And you just found all this out from an Instagram post?" "Yeah," I said, trying to suppress the frustration in my voice. "It's not just the Instagram post. It's the emails, the documents, the whole thing. She's been planning this for months." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "And you've got the proof?" I nodded, pulling a folder out of my bag and sliding it across the table. He looked it over, his eyes scanning the contents. After a moment, he looked up, a smirk playing on his lips. "Well, I'll say one thing, you've got the makings of a good story here. But here's the thing, Isabella. If you want to go public with this, you're going to have to go all in. There's no turning back once you hit send on that expose. It'll blow up." I swallowed hard. "I know, but I'm tired of being the one who's invisible. I've been holding on to this idea for too long. I've spent hours making sure everything was perfect, and she just swooped in and took it like it was nothing." Jordan leaned forward. "So what's your move? You could go to the press, sure, but are you ready for the fallout? People might look at you as the bitter ex-friend trying to ruin her success. You're not the only one who's been hustling, Isabella. She's got a whole team behind her now. You've got to be ready to take on the backlash. I was silent for a moment, considering the weight of his words. But then I looked at the folder in front of me, at the emails, the contracts, the undeniable proof of what Sam had done. I'm ready, I said, my voice firm. I've spent enough time letting her steal my shine. This time I'm telling my side of the story. Let the world see who she really is. Jordan smiled, his grin widening. Well, all right then. Let's make sure she doesn't get away with it. Time to turn the tables. And just like that, the plan was set. I wasn't going to sit on the sidelines anymore. It was time to put everything on the line and expose the truth, no matter what it cost me. The days after Jordan and I made our plan were the longest of my life. As we pieced together everything I had, I realized that exposing Sam wouldn't be as simple as hitting send on a well-crafted post. This wasn't just about telling my side of the story. It was about getting people to believe me, about facing the very real possibility that I could be painted as the villain. Sam had built an empire with an image of being a girl boss, the charming, successful woman who was just following her dreams. Who would believe the quiet one who'd been shoved into the shadows? I had already made the decision, but the fear of public backlash started creeping in. The first obstacle, the backlash from Sam's followers. I didn't care if people thought I was petty or bitter, I just wanted to expose the truth. But when you have hundreds of thousands of people invested in a person's brand, you're not just facing your old best friend, you're facing an army of loyal fans who believed in her and her image. I thought about the countless comments I had seen under her posts. Her followers adored her. They believed she was the embodiment of empowerment, the ultimate hustle queen. How could I, the person who had never been in the spotlight, take on that kind of cult of personality? She had this whole persona built up, the girl next door with the big dreams who made it happen. How could I, a regular woman with a small but undeniable role in making her success possible, destroy that illusion? Jordan had warned me about this. It's going to get ugly, Isabella. You're not just taking on Sam, you're taking on a movement. Her followers won't take kindly to someone exposing their hero. They'll attack. You ready for that? I wasn't sure, how could I be? But then again, how could I not be? I spent the next few days preparing. I knew what I had to do, but I couldn't shake the anxiety building in my chest. I reread the documents over and over again, making sure everything was airtight. The emails were damning, the business plans clearly outlined my contributions, and the timeline made it impossible to deny that Sam had taken the credit for everything. But it wasn't just the hard facts that worried me. It was the narrative. I knew if I framed it the wrong way, I could end up being the villain in this story. To make sure I had my ducks in a row, I reached out to a couple of people who had worked closely with us, people who would know the truth and be willing to back me up. I reached out to Derek again. He had been one of the first people to let the truth slip in our conversation at the bar, and I figured he owed me. I met Derek at a quiet spot in the city, trying to keep things low-key. He was already sitting at a corner table, looking way too comfortable for someone about to be dragged into a messy situation. I slid into the seat across from him. Derek, I said, trying to sound calm, I need your help. I'm about to expose Sam for what she did, and I need people to back me up. He looked at me like I was asking him to jump off a cliff. Wait, what? You mean the Sam we're talking about here? You really want to do this? Are you sure? I nodded, my throat tight. I don't have a choice. She took what was mine. She used me to get where she is, and now she's acting like I don't even exist. Derek leaned back, tapping his fingers on the table, obviously conflicted. I don't know, Isabella, she's been good to me, I can't just. You don't have to do anything, Derek, I interrupted. I just need you to confirm what you know. She's been stealing credit from the beginning, you saw it. You know how she operates. He sighed, rubbing his forehead like he was working through a moral dilemma. I saw a lot, yeah, but what if this blows up in your face? What if you end up the one looking bad? I leaned in, speaking softly but firmly. It's already blown up in my face, Derek. I've spent months watching her use my work, my ideas, my trust, and she doesn't even care. I'm just asking you to tell the truth, that's all. Nothing more, nothing less. He looked at me for a long moment, and I could see the hesitation in his eyes. But finally, he nodded. All right, I'll help, but you need to be prepared for how this might go. If you're going to do it, you need to own it, don't back down. Sam won't go down without a fight. The weight of his words sank in, but I knew this was the only way. I had to expose the truth, no matter the cost. The next obstacle came when I finally sat down to write everything out. I was up all night, writing and rewriting my statement. I knew I had to walk a fine line, one wrong word, one wrong tone, and I could end up ruining everything I had left. I had to be clear, precise, and professional. No wild emotions, no petty details. I had to show the world that I wasn't bitter or jealous. I was simply telling the truth, but it was so hard to keep the anger in check. Every time I wrote about how she had taken my ideas and turned them into her own, I felt my blood pressure rise. Jordan had warned me that this was the tricky part. Framing the story in a way that wasn't just emotional outbursts, but a solid, fact-based account of what happened. The truth alone wouldn't be enough to win people over. I needed to make it about the principle, about the betrayal of trust. And I needed to show the world that while Sam may have had the power, I had the facts. But as I hit send on the post, the anxiety crept in again. What if this was a mistake? What if it cost me everything? What if, in the end, I was just the bitter ex-friend, trying to tear down the successful woman who had once been my partner? I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen, waiting for something to happen, knowing that once the truth was out, there was no turning back. I had done it. The post was live. My fingers hovered above the keyboard for a moment as I stared at the screen, watching the words I had carefully crafted sit there, exposed to the world. I felt a strange mixture of relief and terror. In the back of my mind, I was already bracing for the wave of criticism, the trolls, the accusations of being a bitter ex-friend. But deep down, I knew I had to see this through. The hours after I hit send were a blur. I barely ate, I barely slept. My phone vibrated incessantly, but I kept it face down. I didn't want to look at the messages or the notifications. I knew what I'd done, and now it was out of my hands. All I could do was wait and watch. And then, at 3 a.m., my phone buzzed again. This time it was from Jordan. I hesitated before opening it. "Isabella, you need to see this. Now." I felt my heart race as I opened the message, which contained a link to an article from one of the larger lifestyle blogs. The headline screamed out at me, "From best friends to bitter enemies." The shocking truth behind Sam Cartwright's rise to fame. It was an exposé, a full, detailed account of what had happened between Sam and me. But the twist, it wasn't just my side of the story, it was Sam's too. I clicked on the link, my hands shaking. The article was written as if Sam herself had willingly given up all the details, confessing to how the brand had grown and acknowledging my role in its creation. My heart sank as I read the first few paragraphs. Sam had made it seem like she was the generous, humble founder who had always intended to credit me but had simply gotten swept up in the success. It sounded too rehearsed, too perfect. Sam had crafted an image of herself as the victim, the one who had been too overwhelmed by the business side to fully appreciate the emotional toll of our partnership. But the real kicker. Sam had turned everything I'd said in my post into a justification for her actions. The article portrayed me as an emotional, inexperienced entrepreneur who was bitter over not getting the spotlight, and who was now trying to tear down the success she'd built. The words I had written to expose the truth had been twisted, repurposed, and reframed into an attack on Sam's hard-earned success. I sat there, stunned. My stomach dropped as I processed the words in the article. "You're not the only one who has been hustling, Isabella," Sam had said to me in our last conversation. Now it was clear she had meant it all along. She was the one who had been working the angle, manipulating the narrative, playing the game far better than I ever had. She had made herself out to be the hero in this story, the one who had forgiven me and let me vent online for closure. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. I couldn't believe it. She had anticipated my move. She had planned for it, and she had used the exact words I'd written to frame herself as the benevolent one, as the businesswoman who made it all happen despite my doubts and insecurities. I had thought the post would expose her for the fraud she was, but she had turned it into a sympathy campaign, a campaign I had unwittingly helped her build. "This is insane," I muttered to myself, reading through the article again. I had given her the ammunition she needed to paint me as a failed, jealous former friend. The truth I had hoped to share, the justice I thought I would achieve, was now being used to further her narrative. The betrayal cut even deeper. She had not just stolen my work, she had stolen my chance to tell my story the way I wanted. I called Jordan immediately, my hands trembling as I dialed his number. "Jordan, I don't know what to do. This is worse than I thought. She's turned everything around." He answered on the second ring. "Isabella, I'm reading it right now. She's quick, I'll give her that, but don't freak out. You've got something she doesn't have." I ran my hands through my hair, pacing the floor. "But what do I do now? She's made me look like the villain, like I'm just jealous of her success. people are going to side with her. I've handed her the perfect defense. She's going to win. Not if you take back control of the narrative, Jordan said, his voice calm. She's playing the victim, but that means she's guilty. People will see through it. You just need to show them your truth, not just the facts. It's not too late to change the conversation. I knew he was right. Sam had crafted a brilliant narrative, but it was a lie. I had been used, manipulated, and now she was rewriting the story so it looked like she had been the one who had been wronged. But I couldn't back down. I had spent too much time fighting for my voice to let her take it away now. I sat down, my mind racing through 100 different thoughts. It wasn't over. Sam might have turned my words against me, but she couldn't control all of the truth. She couldn't control my passion, my drive, or the fact that I was the one who had created the idea that had made her rich. I had to expose her again, and this time I wouldn't let her manipulate the truth. The plot had thickened, but it wasn't over yet. This was just another twist in the story, and I wasn't about to lose my place in it. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the glowing screen of my phone. Sam had just turned my moment of exposure into her personal redemption story. My hands shook as I read the comments flooding in. Most of them were sympathetic to her, a few questioning my motives, some accusing me of jealousy. My heart dropped as I saw her fans rallying behind her. The narrative I thought I was controlling was slipping away, replaced by a version of events where I was the bitter ex-friend trying to sabotage her success. I felt like I had lost it all, the trust, the idea, the control. Everything I had worked for had been turned against me. The weight of it all crushed me. This was supposed to be my moment of justice, of reclaiming what was mine. But now I was the one being painted as the villain. I thought about the countless late nights, the effort I had put into this business, the sacrifices I made to help her rise. And yet here she was smiling for the cameras, playing the victim and having the world believe her. I had tried to fight for what was right, and yet it felt like I was losing everything. Sam wasn't just taking credit for my work anymore, she had taken the truth itself. Tears stung at my eyes, but I didn't have time for them. I couldn't back down now. I had to reclaim my story. If I gave up, Sam would win, she'd get away with everything. But I couldn't let that happen. This was my truth, and I needed to find a way to make the world see it. I wasn't going to let her erase me again. The crisis wasn't just the story slipping away. It was the realization that I needed to fight harder, not just for justice, but for my voice to be heard. The battle had just begun. The moment of truth hit me hard. I had spent days thinking I'd lost everything, my idea, my reputation, my place in the story. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let Sam's manipulation stand. I couldn't. I had too much at stake, and if there was any part of me left that still believed in the work I had put in, I wasn't about to back down. So I decided to take control again, not with anger, but with clarity. I couldn't let Sam define the narrative. I'd spent too many years being the behind-the-scenes partner. Now it was time to step into the light. I took a deep breath and crafted my response, a post that wasn't just about the facts, but about how I truly felt. I didn't attack her. Instead, I told my story, the real one. I showed the world how we had started together, how I had believed in her, how we had built something that was ours until the moment it was stolen. I spoke honestly about the work I had done, the sacrifices I'd made, and the pain of watching it all slip away. It was raw, it was real, and it wasn't going to let anyone forget who had been the true creator. I posted it. And this time, something different happened. People began to listen. The comments were flooded with support, some even from people I didn't know who recognized the injustice. Others shared similar stories of being pushed aside, their ideas stolen by those they trusted. I had taken back my voice, my truth. And as the support grew, so did the confidence that I was finally, after all this time, being seen. The truth was out, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. Sam's version of the story had crumbled under the weight of my authenticity. I didn't win the fight yet, but I had reclaimed my place in it. And that, in itself, was enough. It wasn't an overnight victory. The road ahead was still rocky, but something had shifted. As the truth spread, Sam's polished empire started to crack. Investors pulled back, and the media began questioning her rise. Her carefully crafted image of the hardworking, humble entrepreneur didn't hold up against the weight of what had really happened. The truth had a way of unraveling the prettiest facades, and suddenly, people saw the cracks in the story she'd so carefully built. But even with all that happening, I didn't take pleasure in seeing her fall. That wasn't what this was about. I didn't want revenge, I wanted justice, clarity, and the peace that comes from finally being heard. And slowly I found it. Over time, I rebuilt my life. I started a new project, one that was truly mine. It was small at first, just a few friends helping out, a lot of late nights, and zero promises of overnight success. But it felt right. I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. The feeling of creating something from the ground up on my terms was more fulfilling than any of the fame or riches Sam had chased. In the end, I didn't need to become a success in the way people expected. I had already achieved something greater. I had taken back my story, my voice, and my dignity. And that was all I needed.